So we have a Swift Sprite Major 6TD, and we were away recently and found that we had some water coming in through the window. So on further investigation, as you can see, the actual bonding had come away from the window and it was letting water through when we were having heavy rain. So after cutting through some of the bonding, you can see here that it's just pretty much come away from the window. So we covered it in some waterproof tape initially, and this is just the removal of all of the tape just to protect it whilst we were away. I was using this multi-solve spray to then get rid of some of the glue so that we could clean off the surface and then actually get underneath the window to cut it out. I then used a scraping tool just to get rid of all of the glue and clean it up as much as possible before then tackling getting underneath the window to start cutting it out. At this point we fashioned a couple of pieces of wood and some wire to get behind the window and start cutting through the bonding. And as you can see here, it was a bit of a slow process, but we managed to cut through as much of the bonding as possible and get around the window. One tip I would advise here is inside the window underneath, if you put some tape around the edge where the blinds are, this just helps protect it if you do get any wire on top of it and end up cutting through some of the plastic. We eventually got to the point where most of the window had come away, and we then used a saw blade just to get through the final pieces of bonding to then finally release the window and get it all out in one piece. We then began using a small blade to cut round any of the remaining bonding and get rid of as much of it as possible from around the window so that we could start cleaning everything up, ready to start resealing the window itself. We then used a hairdryer just to start removing some of the vinyl wrap, as we're going to replace all of this as well because it had started to crack and come away in some of the recent weather. So we're just getting rid of that as well, whilst cutting out the rest of the bonding from around the window so that we could clean everything up, ready to reseat the window at a later date. So I didn't manage to get any actual photos of the finished result, but you can see here from the picture we managed to get most of the bonding and everything off around the window, cleaned up as much as possible so it's ready to reseal and reapply the window at a later date. So thanks very much for watching. Hopefully that's been useful if you've got a similar issue with one of your windows. It's a relatively straightforward process, but just takes a bit of time to cut through everything and clean everything up. And then I'll release another video when we're actually putting the window back in, just to see that process. And we plan on making a few adjustments as well around the window because it's a little bit flimsy with how they're built. So more to come in the future. Thanks for watching.